Hello, good afternoon, and a very warm welcome. For our next face-to-face, I have with me our guest, retired IPS officer Prakash Singh, who has served as the DGP, Director General of Police of Uttar Pradesh and Assam, and he has also commanded India's border security force. He is one of the key architects and advocates for police reforms in India. Today, I am going to discuss with him on police reforms, appointment criteria for police chief and DGP, and many other issues related to it. Welcome, sir, to our next episode of Expert Insight. It's a pleasure to have you in our show.
Thank
First
you.
of all, I would like to begin with the Supreme Court on Tuesday deferred ruling whether the appointment of Delhi Police Commissioner should align with the Supreme Court's landmark 2006 judgment in Prakash Singh case, which set criteria for selecting state police chiefs, DGP, and also mandated their fixed tenure. The issue of police reform is once again debated, and I'm not only talking about this particular case, but in general, what do you have to say on the appointment criteria of DGP and police chief, and why do you think it is necessary?
Well, one of the important directions of the Supreme Court are related to the appointment of DGP. And the direction as it was originally given was that instead of leaving it entirely in the hands of the state political leadership, they said that the state government would send a panel of names of officers who are considered eligible for promotion to the UPSC, and UPSC will screen those names, and out of those names, they will select a panel of three names. They will select a panel of three of officers whom they consider the best suited to hold the charge of Director General of Police of the state. Those three names will be sent to the state government, and out of those three names, the state chief minister will have the prerogative to select any of them. And he would be appointed as DGP, and once he's appointed as DGP, he'll hold the office for a term of 2 years, irrespective of his superannuation. And he could be removed only in certain exceptional circumstances, like when he's involved in a case of criminal misconduct or misappropriation or something like that. And these are vetted by the State Security Commission, and the State Security Commission thinks that he should be removed in view of these charges. Then alone he could be removed. So that was the original direction of the Supreme Court. Subsequently, there was some controversy about because some state governments, what they were doing, they were just acting very smart, and they were appointing officers who had just 1 week of service left, or 1 day of service left, or 3 days of service left. So it was felt that this is being very arbitrary, and the state government is trying to favor people who are in their good books, even though they have a very few weeks or months left for retirement. So to eliminate the possibility of arbitrary use of executive powers, they said Justice Gogoi laid down a yardstick that an officer should have at least 6 months of service left before he could be considered for empanelment. So these are broadly the directions of Supreme Court, but some states have not found it convenient to comply with these directions, and they have appointed acting DGPs. I filed contempt notices against some state governments for doing this, but that contempt notice has not been taken cognizance of by the Supreme Court. They have not issued any notices to the state governments in response to my application for issuance of contempt to those state governments. So that is how the matter stands. And unfortunately, I would say that since 2020, there has been no forward movement from the side of Supreme Court about the implementation of its directions. 1919, 2019 was the last time when Justice Gogoi took cognizance of this matter and issued some directions. But since 2020, there has been no forward movement, and there have been a number of chief justices. There was Justice Mohd was there, Justice Ramana was there, Justice Lalit was there, Justice Chandrachud was there. In fact, I had great expectations from Justice Chandrachud because he had a full tenure and he was considered very brilliant. So I thought he will give push to police reforms, but for reasons not known to me, he never took any interest in police reforms, and the matter remains pending. As I said, since 2020, There has been no forward movement. There has been no push by the Supreme Court to ensure the implementation of its directions.
So just for our readers, what inspired you to file a PIL in 1996 seeking police reform, and how do you think the judgment has impacted the police force since 2006? Has it in any way
You see,
impacted?
uh, I went to the Supreme Court because my long years as a police officer, 35 years, it convinced me that there are some systemic problems in the police and that these problems need to be addressed. And if they are not addressed, we'll continue to have frustration in service. I myself felt very frustrated because I found that even though I'm trying to enforce the rule of law, even though I'm trying to act as per my conscience, and even though I'm trying to, trying to uphold the Constitution, even then I found that I was being victimized. I was threatened with suspension on one occasion. I was disgraced and removed as DGP. So these incidents left a, made I've experienced a lot of trauma because of these incidents. And at the end of my service, I felt that something needs to be done. Systemic reforms are called for, and I felt that I had explored all the other avenues while in service, and the only avenue left was the judicial avenue. So I decided to knock at the doors of the Supreme Court and file a public interest litigation in 1996. It took 10 years, but subsequently a landmark judgment came.
So, what do you think are the key institutional reforms that are necessary to strengthen the police force and make it more effective in maintaining law and order?
You see, a number of measures need to be taken to make the police reform, to make the police force effective and make it a good instrument of law enforcement.
Yeah.
For that, of course, Supreme Court directions constitute the core recommendations. These are the core recommendations because you see, it is like this. Look at any human being. You have arms, you have legs, you have brain, you have eyes, you have ears. Now, if you have some problem in your hands or your legs, those problems can be locally treated. But if you have some problem in your heart, the heart, then there's it's a very serious problem. And if the heart is not functioning well, you can add muscular strength, but that will not lead you anywhere. You may have a heart attack, and that will be the end of your life. So I felt that the heart of the problem needs to be touched. And the heart of the problem I tried to tackle through my petition. And by God's grace, I would say the petition was not only admitted, but all the prayers were successfully responded to by the Supreme Court by issuing a set of 7 directions. So the heart of the problem has been addressed, and it's a question of when will these problems be, when will these directions be faithfully implemented in letter and spirit. That remains to be seen. But apart from that, there are a whole range of other matters which can also be addressed, like you say, manpower shortage, a human resource problem. There is huge vacancies. About 500,000 vacancies are there in the police ranks. Then there are a number of other problems. Forensic laboratories, for example, under the new penal code, certain offences to be charge sheeted, forensic examination has been made compulsory. It's mandatory. It has to be done. But where are the forensic laboratories? Where are the facilities? Of course, the government is trying to build up now. Several state governments are trying to build forensic laboratories and also establish forensic universities. But all this will take time, at least 3, 4, 5, 6 years it will take before these laboratories become functional. And till then, we have a huge pendency of forensic exhibits. So, this is another area. Then transport, there are deficiencies in transport. Police buildings are in pathetic state. We talk of giving a good reception to any complainant, but where is the furniture? Where is the building? Where is the where is the infrastructure? Infrastructure is not there. We need good buildings. We need good communication network. We need adequate transport fleet. So all these things need to be addressed. And apart from the Supreme Court directions, if these matters are also addressed, it will go a long way in making police force effective and an instrument which would inspire the confidence of the people.
So, what do you think the state security commissions and a police establishment board can play in insulating the police force from political interference?
See, State Security Commission is a very important recommendation made by the Supreme Court, uh, uh, and they have said that the State Security Commission would be so constituted that it is evenly balanced by representatives of the state government and people drawn from the civil society who are considered independent, who are considered men of integrity, and who will give good salutary advice in any circumstance. So, this State Security Commission, it was expected that this will act as a shock absorber between the government and the police. On the one hand, it will uh, exercise a sobering influence on the government. It will also exercise a sobering influence on the police, in the sense that it will ensure that the state government, on the one hand, does not interfere in the day-to-day functioning of the police, and it will ensure that police conforms to the letter of the law and does not transgress the limits of law by committing excesses, etc., etc. So the State Security Commission was a very important body which was to act, which was to set up between the government and the police. And if this body was properly constituted, I think it will go a long, long way in ensuring that police remains insulated from extraneous pressures of any kind. So, but unfortunately, several state governments have constituted state security commissions, but they have gone against the letter and spirit of the Supreme Court's directions. For example, the Supreme Court said that you choose men of integrity. Now, while choosing men from the civil society, most of the state governments have chosen men or women who are known to be pro-government. Now, if you choose a person who is already known to be pro-government, then his independence or his integrity or his partiality will not be reflected in the proceedings of the State Security Commission. So, likewise, they have supported the composition of the State Security Commission. Then it was also said that the Security Commission recommendation will be binding on the state government. Most of the state governments, barring one or two, they have said that it will not be binding, it will be recommendatory. Now, if it is recommendatory, then the purpose of setting up a State Security Commission is gone. Because you make a recommendation, state government will say, no, this is not binding on us and we don't accept it and we don't agree with the recommendation, throw that in the dustbin. So, I mean, the purpose of setting a State Security Commission is defeated the moment you say that its recommendations will not be binding and they are only a recommendation. So, I mean, they have diluted the composition, they have diluted the enforcement part. So that way they have tried to scuttle the spirit behind the setting up State Security Commission. That is the tragedy we are witnessing presently. We also talked about the Police Establishment Board. And the purpose of setting a Police Establishment Board was that in matters of postings and transfers, the state police will have a very important say. It was laid down that up to the level of Deputy Superintendent of Police, from Constable, Head Constable, Sub-Inspector, Inspector, Deputy Superintendent Police, all these postings will be decided by the police officers themselves at different levels. But the department will have a complete say in the postings and transfers of these officers. Now, about Superintendent of Police and above, it was said that the Establishment Board will make a recommendation which will be given due weight by the state government. And if the state government does not agree, they will record their reasons that for such and such reasons we don't agree, and therefore we are going beyond what they have recommended, or we are going contrary to what they have recommended. Now, this was the purpose behind setting up establishment board, so that the police officers have a good measure of hold in personnel matters, in matters of postings and transfers up to Deputy SP. And beyond that, they have a say which may be accepted, which may not be accepted, depending from case to case. Now, this has also not been implemented in letter and spirit, because the establishment boards have either have been constituted in different in different ways by different state governments, and they have tried to see that the authority of the police officer or the police officer's recommendation can be easily overruled by the state government at all levels. So that way, I mean, they have set up establishment board, they have set up state security commission, but the setting up of these bodies has been farcical and contrary to the letter and spirit of Supreme Court's directions. So the purpose is being defeated, and the objectives which were sought to be achieved by setting up these bodies, we find that those objectives we are not able to achieve.
Finally, what message would you like to convey to the government and policymakers regarding the importance of police reforms in India?
See, I think police reforms are absolutely essential if you want a progressive India, if you want a modern India, if you want a stable India, if you want an India where there is harmony, if you want an India where there is rule of law, if you want an India which is looked upon as a model of law enforcement, then you must have police reform. There is no getting away from this fact. Unfortunately, our politicians cannot see beyond their political self-interest, and they want to have complete stranglehold over the police. And it is not only the politician, it's the bureaucracy also. The bureaucracy also wants full control over the police. And because of these matters, we find that I mean, there are so many instances when the rule of law is being violated because the government doesn't want the rule of law. The government wants that its writ should prevail. I mean, if they are criminals, I mean, if he is my criminal, then you have to protect him. If he is not, if he is the opposition's criminal, then of course you can arrest him and you can book him under National Security Act or any stringent provision of law. So, I mean, this distinction between my criminal and your criminal, or I mean, this is wrong. I mean, a criminal is a criminal, and he should get even-handed treatment from the police, and there should be no interference in the day-to-day functioning. I mean, the state government can lay down the broad parameters within which law enforcement is to be done, within which law is to be enforced, within which the police should function. But once you lay down the broad parameters, but when it's a question of implementing those policies by the police, then it should be left to the police, and there should be no direction from the government that you do this, you इसका नाम FIR में डाल दो, इसका नाम FIR में निकाल दो, इसको पकड़ लो क्योंकि ये फलानी जात का है, इसको छोड़ दो क्योंकि ये दूसरी जात का है, इसको पकड़ लो क्योंकि इस धर्म का है, उसको छोड़ दो वो दूसरे धर्म का है. इस तरह तो फिर पुलिस काम नहीं कर सकती, और इस तरह अगर आप काम करिएगा तो पुलिस की विश्वसनीयता, पुलिस credibility will not be there. They will say, भाई this is the government's police, they are carrying out government's orders, government's directions, and they are not fair, they are not objective, you can't trust them. So, I mean, if you want a progressive India, you need an impartial police, a police which gives highest priority to enforcing the rule of law. As I say, you cannot build a stable structure on foundations of sand. A structure needs good, solid foundation. And for a strong, prosperous, modern India, you need a solid foundation of good law and order. And if that solid foundation is not there, you will always be slipping up somewhere here and there, and there'll be disaffection among sections of the people. And generally they will say, police तो सरकार की एजेंसी है, जैसे चाहे उसको इधर घुमा देती है, उधर घुमा देती है. I mean, if that is the kind of impression which people have in India and outside India about our working and about the Indian police, then I mean it will be a far cry from being a progressive modern state.
So on that note, let us hope that the 2006 historic judgment on police reform is implemented and there is a visible sign of rule of law in the country. Thanks, sir, for sharing your perspective. We'll be back next time with another expert. Thanks for watching. Take good care of yourself. Keep your environment clean. Goodbye.